She will never say this out loud, not because she doesn't feel it, but because admitting it would expose what truly controls her emotions. You see, attraction isn't built on words, looks, or effort. It's built in the quiet moments when your absence speaks louder than your presence. When your silence makes her wonder, when your calm makes her feel something she can't explain. Most men lose her not because they did something wrong, but because they gave too much, too fast, and too often. What I'm about to share isn't comfortable. It challenges everything you've been taught about love, effort, and chasing. But if you understand this hidden truth, you'll stop begging for attention and start becoming unforgettable. Watch till the end. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Comment your location and tell me where you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel for more deep psychological truths. Most people misunderstand what truly creates emotional attachment. They believe it's consistency, constant reassurance, or always being available. But the human mind, especially when it comes to attraction, doesn't work that way. The emotional system is activated by contrast, by movement, by the space between moments. When everything is predictable, the mind rests. When something is slightly uncertain, the mind engages. This is where emotional uncertainty quietly does its work. It's not chaos. It's not confusion. It's the subtle tension between presence and absence. When you're warm, grounded, and attentive, and then you return to your life without over-explaining or seeking validation, you create an emotional echo. She feels you even when you're not there. Her mind begins to replay interactions, search for meaning, and fill in the gaps. That's not manipulation. That's psychology. What many men do wrong is they remove all mystery in an attempt to feel secure. They show every card. They respond instantly. They explain every emotion. But when you give the mind nothing to resolve, it stops working. Emotional attraction fades not because you lacked effort, but because there was no tension to hold attention. Uncertainty, when guided by self-control, signals confidence. It says you are comfortable with space, that you don't need to chase emotional reassurance. This activates something deeper than attraction. It activates respect. And respect is the foundation on which desire actually grows. A woman doesn't obsess over a man who is desperate to be understood. She becomes curious about the man who understands himself. This is why absence, used wisely, can speak louder than presence. When you don't rush to fill every silence, when you allow conversations to breathe, when you leave before energy drops, you're not pulling away. You're allowing emotional momentum to build. The mind doesn't attach to what's constantly in front of it. It attaches to what it has to reach for. And here's the key distinction most people miss: emotional uncertainty is not about playing games. It's about having a life, purpose, and emotional center that doesn't depend on someone else's reaction. When your attention isn't your currency, it becomes your power. The moment she senses that your emotional world is stable, with or without her, attraction shifts naturally. So the reflection is simple but uncomfortable. Stop trying to be understood. Stop over-giving in the name of connection. Let space do some of the work for you. Because the strongest emotional bonds are not formed by constant presence, but by meaningful absence that leaves the mind wanting more. If there is one trait that quietly shapes how people perceive you, it's emotional self-control, not suppression, not coldness, but the ability to experience emotion without being ruled by it. Most attraction doesn't rise from what you say or how much attention you give. It rises from how you carry yourself when emotions are involved. The moment you lose control over, explain, or seek reassurance, you unconsciously communicate that your emotional state depends on someone else's response. Psychologically, this matters because humans are wired to follow stability. We are drawn to people who appear grounded within themselves. Emotional self-control signals inner order. It suggests that your life is structured, your identity is solid, and your sense of worth isn't negotiable. This is why calm presence often feels magnetic. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. Many men believe effort equals value. They think more messages, faster replies, and constant availability show interest. But emotionally, that behavior often communicates anxiety rather than care. When you rush to fill every silence or react to every shift in tone, you hand over control. You make your emotional state readable and predictable, which slowly dissolves intrigue. What feels safe at first can quickly feel dull. Self-control changes that dynamic. When you don't react immediately, when you pause before responding, when you choose clarity over impulse, you create psychological space. That space allows respect to form, and respect is the doorway to desire. Without it, attraction cannot sustain itself. A woman doesn't feel drawn to a man who is emotionally reactive because reactivity suggests instability. But a man who can sit comfortably in uncertainty without needing instant validation communicates strength at a subconscious level. There's also a philosophical layer here. Self-control reflects self-ownership. It tells the world that you govern your inner life instead of outsourcing it. This is deeply attractive because it implies leadership, not dominance. But direction. You know where you're going emotionally, and you don't need permission to stay there. That kind of presence invites others to align with you rather than test you. This doesn't mean withholding emotion or pretending not to care. It means choosing when and how you express yourself. It means responding, not reacting. It means allowing emotions to pass through you without letting them dictate your behavior. In relationships, this is the difference between being desired and being managed. So here's the reflection to carry forward. The more control you have over your emotional reactions, the less control others have over your worth. When you master your inner world, your external world begins to respond differently. Attraction follows stability. Respect follows restraint. And power begins the moment you stop giving your emotions away for free. There's a principle that governs human desire far beyond dating, and it's this: we value what feels limited. Not because we're shallow, but because the mind is wired to prioritize what isn't guaranteed. When something is always available, the brain stops assigning urgency to it. When access feels earned, uncertain, or selective, attention sharpens. This is not opinion. This is behavioral psychology. Scarcity doesn't mean playing hard to get or withdrawing to provoke anxiety. It means living a life where your time, energy, and focus are not endlessly accessible. When someone senses that you have a full world, responsibilities, goals, standards, they instinctively place more value on moments they get to share with you. Not because you're withholding, but because you're not overextending. Most people dilute their own value without realizing it. They cancel plans too easily. They adjust their schedule at the first sign of interest. They make themselves constantly reachable. Psychologically, this removes friction. And without friction, the mind doesn't engage deeply. There's nothing to pursue, nothing to lean into. Desire needs resistance the way muscles need weight. When your presence is intentional rather than constant, it creates contrast. Conversations feel sharper. Time together feels more vivid. Absence allows emotion to consolidate. The brain needs space to assign meaning. Without it, connection stays shallow, even if interaction is frequent. There's also an identity signal embedded in scarcity. When you don't give unlimited access, you're communicating that you have standards, that your life is not organized around external validation. This isn't arrogance. It's self-respect. And self-respect is magnetic because it suggests that being part of your world is a choice, not a default. Philosophically, scarcity is about boundaries. Boundaries tell others how to treat you, but more importantly, they tell you who you are. When you protect your time, you reinforce your values. You stop negotiating your worth in small, invisible ways. Over time, this shapes how people respond to you. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Many confuse scarcity with distance. Distance disconnects, scarcity sharpens focus. You can be warm, present, and genuine without being endlessly available. You can care deeply without orbiting someone else's emotional state. When those two things coexist, attraction becomes effortless because it's grounded in choice rather than dependency. And this is where everything comes together. Emotional uncertainty keeps the mind engaged. Self-control establishes respect. Scarcity assigns value. None of these work in isolation. Together, they form a quiet authority. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth when your behavior already reflects it. So here's the final reflection. Stop trying to be more available. Start being more intentional. Protect your time. Honor your direction. Because the moment you treat your life as valuable, others begin to experience you the same way.